There will be a moment in your life when everything seems to fall apart at once. The people you trusted may leave. The plans you built may fail. The money may disappear. The future you imagined may suddenly become impossible. And for the first time, you may sit alone in silence and wonder, what am I supposed to do now? Maybe you are there right now. Maybe you are exhausted from pretending to be strong while secretly falling apart inside. But what if this moment is not the end of your story? What if life is not destroying you, but forcing you to discover a strength you never knew you had? The Stoics understood something most people only learn after suffering. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can choose who you become because of it. Hello everyone, welcome to the Stoic Hypnosis channel. In today's video, we are going to explore the Stoic principles you need to remember when life feels unbearable, when you lose control, when people disappoint you, when your plans collapse, and when you feel like there is nowhere left to turn. You will discover how to control what is still within your power, how to endure pain without allowing it to destroy your mind, and how to turn moments of adversity into strength. So if life has pushed you to your limit, stay with me until the end, because perhaps the darkest chapter of your life is not where your story ends. Perhaps it is where you finally become who you were meant to be. Now, let's get started. Part 1. When everything falls apart. Sometimes life does not break you with one tragedy. It breaks you slowly, one disappointment at a time. A relationship ends. A plan fails. Someone you trusted betrays you. Your hard work produces nothing. And suddenly, the future you spent years building begins to disappear in front of you. The hardest part is not always the pain itself. It is the feeling that you have no control over what happens next. You wake up every morning carrying the same questions. Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? When will this finally end? And the more you search for answers, the more trapped you feel. But the Stoics understood something incredibly important about suffering. Pain becomes heavier when we demand that reality be different from what it is. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot undo yesterday. You cannot control the economy, other people's decisions, unexpected losses, or the events that suddenly change your plans. But there is something you can control: your response. This does not mean pretending that pain doesn't hurt. It means refusing to add unnecessary suffering to the pain that already exists. When something goes wrong, your first instinct may be to fight reality. This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have treated me this way. My life was supposed to look different. But reality does not negotiate. And the sooner you accept what has already happened, the sooner you can begin deciding what happens next. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that obstacles were not simply interruptions to life. They were part of life. The obstacle becomes material for character. The betrayal can teach you discernment. The failure can teach you resilience. The loss can teach you what truly matters. And the moment you stop asking, "Why is life doing this to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with what remains?" your entire perspective begins to change. Maybe you lost the relationship, but you still have your character. Maybe you lost the opportunity, but you still have your ability to act. Maybe your plans collapsed, but you are still here. And as long as you are still here, the story is not finished. Sometimes, the first step out of the darkest place is not finding a way to escape. It is realizing that you still have something within you that life has not been able to take away. Part 2. Stop fighting what you cannot control. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes from fighting reality. You know something is over, but you keep wishing it wasn't. You know someone has changed, but you keep hoping they will become the person they used to be. You know the past cannot be rewritten, yet you replay it every night, imagining what you should have said or done differently. And slowly, your mind becomes exhausted from fighting battles that cannot be won. This is one of the greatest lessons of Stoic philosophy. Not everything deserves your struggle. Some things are within your control. Your choices, your effort, your discipline, your attitude, your response. But other things belong entirely to the world. Other people's opinions, their decisions, the past, unexpected events, the outcome of every attempt you make. And when you confuse these two categories, you suffer unnecessarily. Imagine standing in front of a locked door and spending hours screaming at it because you believe it should be open. The door does not care. Your anger does not change the lock. Your frustration does not create a key. But the moment you step back and ask, what is actually within my power? You regain something far more valuable than control. You regain direction. Maybe you cannot make someone love you, but you can choose to stop chasing them. Maybe you cannot change what happened, but you can decide what the experience teaches you. Maybe you cannot guarantee success, but you can control whether you show up tomorrow and try again. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes a way of surviving life without allowing life to destroy your inner world. The goal is not to control everything. The goal is to become so grounded that when life changes unexpectedly, you can change your response without losing yourself. Because life will test you. It will take things away. It will close doors you desperately wanted to walk through. And sometimes, no amount of effort will reopen them. But that does not mean you are powerless. It means your power has moved somewhere else. It has moved from controlling the outcome to controlling the person you become while facing it. So the next time something happens that you cannot change, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this mine to control? If the answer is no, release the fight. If the answer is yes, act. That simple distinction can save you years of unnecessary suffering. Because peace does not come from making life obey you. Peace comes from knowing what deserves your energy and what does not. Before we continue, I want you to pause for a moment. Think about the hardest thing you are facing right now. Ask yourself, is this something I can control or something I need to release? Sometimes, the greatest strength is not fighting harder. It is knowing when to stop fighting the wrong battle. If this message is helping you see your struggles differently, stay with me until the end, because the next lessons go even deeper, and they may change the way you understand pain, failure, loss, and the moments when life seems completely against you. And if you believe these Stoic principles can help you become stronger, calmer, and more resilient, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support allows me to keep creating meaningful content about Stoicism, discipline, inner strength, and the mindset required to face life's hardest moments. Don't leave yet. Sometimes, the lesson we need most is hidden inside the pain we are trying hardest to escape. Part 3. Adversity is forging you. There is a version of you that only appears when life becomes difficult. You may never meet that person during comfortable times. Because comfort does not demand courage. Comfort does not force you to discover how strong you really are. It is adversity that reveals you. When everything goes according to plan, it is easy to believe you are disciplined. It is easy to believe you are patient. It is easy to believe you are strong. But then life takes something away. And suddenly, all the things you believed about yourself are tested. This is why the Stoics did not see hardship simply as an enemy. They saw it as training. Not because suffering is good in itself, but because hardship gives you an opportunity to practice the virtues you claim to value. You say you want to be resilient? Life will give you something difficult to endure. You say you want to be disciplined? Life will give you days when you have no motivation. You say you want inner peace? Life will give you reasons to lose it. The test is not whether you can remain calm when everything is going perfectly. The test is whether you can remain grounded when everything around you is falling apart. Think about a muscle. It does not become stronger because you admire it. It becomes stronger because it is challenged. Your character works the same way. Every disappointment can become a lesson. Every rejection can become an opportunity to strengthen your self-respect. Every failure can teach you something success never could. And every painful season can reveal what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, political conflict, personal loss, illness, and uncertainty. Yet he continued returning to the same question: what is required of me now? Not tomorrow, not next year, not when life becomes easier, now. That question can change your life. When you are overwhelmed, ask, what is required of me today? Maybe the answer is simply to get out of bed. Maybe it is to make one difficult phone call. Maybe it is to stop chasing someone who has already walked away. Maybe it is to work quietly toward a future nobody else can see yet. You do not need to solve your entire life tonight. You only need to take the next right step. Because sometimes, strength is not dramatic. Sometimes strength looks like waking up with a broken heart and still choosing to move forward. So if life has placed you in a difficult season, do not immediately assume that you are being punished. Perhaps you are being prepared. Perhaps this pain is teaching you something comfort never could. And perhaps the person you will become after surviving this chapter will be someone your old self could never have imagined. Part 4. When you feel like giving up. There comes a point in every difficult season when pain stops feeling temporary. You become tired. Not the kind of tired that disappears after a good night's sleep. A deeper kind. The kind that makes you question whether trying is even worth it anymore. You have been patient. You have worked hard. You have endured disappointment after disappointment, and still, nothing seems to change. So you begin to wonder, what is the point? This is the moment when many people give up. Not because they are weak, but because they have been carrying the weight for too long. And if you have ever reached this place, remember something. You do not need to feel powerful to keep moving. Sometimes, courage is simply continuing while you feel powerless. The Stoics never promised that life would become easy. They taught something far more useful. You can live with dignity even when life is unfair. You can remain disciplined when motivation disappears. You can remain kind without becoming naive. You can remain hopeful without pretending everything is fine. And most importantly, you can continue taking the next step without knowing exactly where the road leads. Think about how often we demand certainty before we act. We want to know that our effort will succeed. We want proof that our sacrifice will be worth it. We want reassurance that tomorrow will be better. But life rarely gives us that guarantee. Sometimes you have to move forward without certainty. You have to work without applause. You have to rebuild without knowing whether anyone will notice. And this is where character is formed. Not when everyone believes in you, but when nobody does, and you decide to keep believing in the values you stand for. If you are in that season right now, do not measure your entire life by today's pain. A terrible chapter is still only a chapter. You cannot judge the entire story while you are still inside one difficult page. Give yourself permission to take things one day at a time. Eat, rest, work, pray or reflect, take a walk, do the next necessary thing. You don't need to conquer the mountain today. You only need to keep your feet moving. Because there are moments when the distance between despair and hope is nothing more than one more morning you decided to wake up and try again. And someday, you may look back at the version of yourself who almost gave up and realize that person was much stronger than they ever knew. Not because they never broke, but because even after breaking, they chose to rebuild. Part 5. You are not at the end. Maybe the hardest truth to accept is this. Sometimes, life will not give you the answer you want. Some people will leave. Some opportunities will never return. Some wounds will take longer to heal than you expected. And some chapters will end without giving you the closure you desperately wanted. But that does not mean your life is over. It means you have reached a point where you must decide what happens next. The Stoics understood that we cannot always choose the circumstances we are given, but we can choose the meaning we give them. You can look at your failure and say, "I am finished." Or you can say, "Now I know what I need to change." You can look at rejection and decide, "I am not enough." Or you can decide, "This person was not the measure of my worth." You can look at loss and believe that everything has been taken from you. Or you can look at what remains and begin again. Because beginning again is one of the most powerful things a human being can do. You do not need your old life back. You need the courage to build a new one. And perhaps this is the lesson that people understand only after suffering. You are stronger than the circumstances that broke your old identity. The person you were before the struggle may have depended on comfort, on certainty, on approval, on having everything under control. But the person who emerges from adversity can become different, calmer, more disciplined, less desperate for approval, more grateful for ordinary days, more selective about who deserves access to their life, more focused on what truly matters. So if you are standing at what feels like the end of the road, don't ask yourself how you are going to rebuild your entire future. Ask a smaller question. What is the next right thing I can do? Then do that. Tomorrow, ask again. Then do it again. One decision, one action, one day at a time. That is how people rebuild their lives. Not through one heroic moment, but through thousands of quiet decisions made when nobody is watching. And one day, you may realize something extraordinary. The moment you thought life had pushed you into a dead end was actually the moment you stopped walking in the wrong direction. So remember this, when life becomes unbearable, you are not your failure. You are not your loss. You are not the rejection you experienced. You are not the chapter that broke you. You are the person who decides what comes next. And as long as you can still choose your next step, your story is not finished. Conclusion. When life pushes you to the edge, remember this. You may not control what happens, but you still control what happens next. The deepest Stoic lesson is not to avoid pain, but to refuse to let pain decide who you become. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, take action. If it isn't, release the fight. Today, stop trying to solve your entire life at once. Take one step. Keep one promise to yourself. Do one thing that moves you forward. Your failure is not your identity. Your loss is not your destiny. And your darkest chapter is not the end of your story. If this message gave you strength, subscribe to the channel and support us. Your subscription gives me the motivation to continue creating deeper lessons on stoicism, discipline, resilience, and inner strength. Thank you for taking the time to watch until the end of the video. See you in the next videos.